Hello, and thank you for watching this November 30th weather update, brought to you by Agrible, the makers of Morning Farm Report. My name is Eric Snodgrass, and I'm a senior atmospheric scientist and co-founder of Agrible. Meteorological winter starts on Tuesday, and a big factor for the 2015 U.S. winter will be the strength and position of the subtropical jet stream. This map shows the wind speed and direction about 6 to 7 miles above the surface, and the current position of the subtropical jet can be seen right here. During strong El Niño years, like 2015, this branch of the jet stream does two things. First, it is effective at keeping really cold air out of the United States. Second, it is notorious for providing the moisture and lift necessary for heavy precipitation events in the southern states. As evidence, here is last week's precipitation totals across the United States. You can see how the most recent rains swept across the central United States from the southwest to the northeast, following the trajectory of the subtropical jet stream. The south central United States is experiencing its wettest year on record. This graph shows the accumulation of precipitation for Dallas-Fort Worth as a function of time since January 1st. 3 huge rain events, one in May, one in late September, and this past weekend have put Dallas-Fort Worth at 173% of normal rainfall for the year. As we forecast last week, there was a significant risk for heavy snow and ice with this latest weather system. Ice accumulated in northern Texas through Oklahoma, parts of Kansas, Missouri, and Iowa. Here is a great picture from Twitter of ice sliding off a speed limit sign in Oklahoma, where tens of thousands were without power for part of the weekend. Speaking of ice and snow, snowfall in the western mountains looks so much better than it did last year. Several stations are reporting over 100% of average snow water content. This is crucial to ending the drought in the west. Now, before we move into this week's forecast, here's a look at the latest Drought Monitor. East of the Rockies, there are only a few places dealing with abnormally dry conditions. All of the heavy rains in Texas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, and Arkansas have eliminated the drought that had developed there at the end of the summer. Drought conditions have improved in parts of the West, especially in coastal Washington, but it will take significant and persistent rain and snow to end the historic drought out west. At least the West is getting a break from the oppressive heat it has dealt with since last winter. Sunday morning saw record low temperatures for the northern parts of California, where temperatures in the valley dropped below freezing. So let's turn our attention to the forecast. On Sunday night, the National Weather Service had issued winter storm watches and warnings that stretch from the panhandles of Texas and Oklahoma through the Dakotas, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. Another low-pressure system will form in the Panhandle region and head straight for Iowa on Monday and Tuesday. This animation shows the forecast track of the low, along with precipitation intensity and type through Thursday morning. We can see how snow spreads to the northwest of the low-pressure center, while more rain is forecast ahead of and to the south of the low. By Wednesday afternoon, though, all should be said and done. But let's take a look at the snowfall totals we are expecting from this system. Forecast models are hinting at another 6+ inch event for a large section of the northern Great Plains. Some locations could see up to a foot or more of snow, though. After this event, higher air pressure dominates the weather scene in the eastern half of the country for the remainder of the week. The next low-pressure system takes shape next Monday and Tuesday and seems to be tracking along the Ohio River. At this time, we are not expecting the system to bring as much snow as the system pulling through the United States this week. Now, before we talk more about the temperatures for the next week, I want to draw your attention to the Pacific Northwest again. This region will receive repeated rounds of mountain snow and valley rain through the next 10 days as the Aleutian Low, which sets up south of Alaska, establishes itself and strengthens. Now, back to those temperatures. November will end just as it began for the eastern two-thirds of the country, warm. This map shows temperature anomalies for the first 28 days of November. Will this trend continue into December? Well, this map shows an animation of temperature anomalies, which are differences from normal, for the next 10 days. The central United States starts off cool as the big snowstorm that will form in the north central states pushes through. This colder then moves southeast towards the end of the week. However, once this system is gone, temperatures start to rebound by the weekend for most of the central United States. As next week arrives, there are very few spots in the U.S. that are much cooler than normal. Here are the temperature and precipitation probability maps for days 8 through 14 in the forecast. The United States is clearly looking warm for next week. Thankfully, the South might get a chance to dry out a bit too. Turning to Brazil, last week we expressed some concern that parts of the central Brazilian growing regions near Mato Grosso were drier than normal, putting some strain on some of the bean crop. Over the last week, heavier, more typical rainfall events have returned to this area, as seen in the figure in the bottom right. However, persistent dryness since the start of November has plagued the western state of Rondônia. While this region is not as productive as Mato Grosso, this lack of rain will still put a small strain on the total Brazilian crop outlook. Here's a look at the next 2 weeks of forecast precipitation. Nearly all of Brazil's growing regions are receiving rain, keeping serious drought concern in the north at bay. While it has been wet in the southern Brazilian states, I have not heard too many news stories or reports suggesting widespread strain on the crop here either. Well, as always, we at Agrible will bring you the latest and best weather forecast information through our morning farm report so that you can efficiently plan your operations. We thank you for your attention and hope you look forward to our next weather video update. Thank you.